Welcome. You're listening to Doopy Deep with Dr. Nikki. This is the place where witty, irreverent, opinionated perspective meets serious, fact-based discussion. Featuring our host, Dr. Nikki Coleman, and her co-host, Tomas Bell. You can also join in the discussion during our live tapings by following us on Spreaker.com. Now, the doctor is in. It's time to get Doopy Deep.
Welcome back and Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Tomas.
And Happy New Year to you, Dr. Nikki. You always get me.
I mean,
it's a new
what a perfect
season.
way to start. It's a new season, and what a perfect way to start back. We do it in the middle of a sip of something.
It's a new season, and I'm still sipping on something.
Still sipping on something. At the most inopportune time.
Because we've got to get our cues together. You got to tell me, I'm going to say hello to you as soon as we start.
I feel like this is a natural rhythm that you should have anticipated anyway.
Well, the sip was real nice. So how are you doing?
Glad you enjoyed it. I'm doing great.
That's great. Dr. Nikki, it's been a minute. You want to tell everyone what's been going on with you since last semester? I've had people reach out via the Tomajan Entertainment Twitter account and our Facebook page asking what happened to the show. So you want to address that before we jump in?
I would do that. And this, I appreciate the little bit of passive aggressive tone in your voice as well.
You're welcome.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. So we did a couple shows over the summer. It was really fun, really exciting. We were supposed to come back in the fall, and then life happened. I don't know if you know, but in August here in this little town we call Houston, Texas, we had a major natural disaster event with Hurricane Harvey. And I was fortunate enough to not have any damage to my property, to my home, no physical damage for me or those in my family and friend circle. However, I think everybody here in Houston experienced the event, and it really did have long-term psychological impact on us. It was just, it's like this week-long indirect trauma that I think we all experienced. I think that it's funny that you always refer to semesters when you talk to me. You know, my full-time job is at the University of Houston as a professor. And so, you know, we got back into the swing of things with the semester. The other exciting part is that I'm finally back in private practice. And so my private practice started picking up. And just between those two things, I thought adding back on doing the podcast and doing it the right way so that I could be thoughtful about what we want to talk about, be prepared in how we cover the content in the podcast. It just felt like it was too much. And so I'm a big believer in, if you're going to do something, do it right. So I thought we would just wait until January 2018 and do a hard reset so we can get started back. So that's a long version of where I've been.
I think that's actually well thought out, well planned, and important. Let me just start by saying I actually remember what was going on down in Houston and Galveston and all those areas when the hurricane hit, and it was absolutely horrible. I'm happy that you had minimized personal damage and you were able to move forward with that.
Yes, thank you.
But you're so right. That is, it's how the emotional aspect of that stays with you, you know, especially for people with children and, you know, just trying to make it day to day with that kind of thing. Excited to hear about your personal practice by contrast.
Yes.
Really happy that that's picked up for you.
Me too.
And I'm sure that the listeners, as well as myself, are excited to have you back. I think that you bring an interestingly unique perspective to the airwaves, and it's not just about clickbait with you, which is why I was really excited about doing the show with you. We're actually having real conversations, and Lord knows every single day there is something to talk about critically.
Every day. Some days, it's like multiple things come out in one day that need to be talked about.
Right. We could literally do a show. This could be a daily show with weekend special editions, and we would still not have enough to talk about.
My goodness. Seriously, in the past 12 months at a minimum, when CNN or MSNBC or any of the major news outlets, when they say breaking news, it really is breaking news. It's like this constant stream of things that are happening. So I'm excited to get back and kind of add our voice and add a little bit of, our goal is always here at Doopy Deep is to add a kind of nuanced layer and a nuanced perspective on things. So I'm ready to get back into it.
Perfect.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I shouldn't say perfect. I should say me too. I'm ready to get back into it.
Wah, wah, wah. So corny.
Right. I know.
So yeah, exactly. You can't help yourself. That with that horrible segue.
I know. Sorry.
In our
this is why I don't do comedy, people. I'm an improv tool, like a friend of mine called me. Thanks to you, Kevin Goatee of Comics Watching Comics.
Oh, that's hilarious. We are going to talk about, the other thing that we love to do here at Doopy Deeps with Dr. Nikki is follow the hashtag, right? And so we're going to talk about two, I think, personally important and just centrally important to our culture and us being in the middle of a really big kind of revelatory shift in our culture. We want to talk about hashtag Me Too and the hashtag Time's Up movements. That's what we want to focus our conversation on today. So vitally important. Unfortunately, I think, the conversation, we are afforded in being able to have this conversation on the backs of a lot of people's pain and suffering. And I want to acknowledge that in going into the conversation. I don't want us to play into the game of kind of, which I think is always the dark side of having hashtags and having something go viral on social media. I think the dark side is that you can then become disconnected from individual people's stories. And I want to make sure that we don't do this. If for some reason you have been in a cave or under a rock somewhere, you don't talk to other people. It's not even about even having access to social media or the internet, but just in everyday conversations, there's been this huge zeitgeist shift in our culture and talking about sexism, talking about sexual harassment, talking about sexual assault. How pervasive it is, how widespread the consequences are, and how it really impacts everybody, not just those who are survivors thereof or perpetrators thereof, but how it really affects all of us. So we want to explore those pieces a little bit more today, as well as, which is always our goal here, is to talk about how we can move the conversation forward. Like, what are next steps? So,
Seems that we had a little bit of an issue with Dr. Nikki. Let's get her right back. Just bear with us 1 second, and we'll be right back. We're right back with Dr. Nikki. We apologize on that. This is one of the wonderful things about using technology.
Yes, it is.
when you require strong Wi-Fi connections.
Wi-Fi system.
Dr. Nikki, you are absolutely back on the air, and let's continue with our conversation.
Excellent. So what I was just winding up to kind of just give an overview about the series of events. So what we had happen was in October 2017, the New York Times published a story talking about women, a number of women, some of them were named and some of them were also anonymous, that came out accusing this huge Hollywood mogul, Harvey Weinstein, of sexual harassment and sexual assault that had been occurring over a period of decades. And this, at the time, it was a big story. It was huge because it was, I think, shocking for people about how many women had made allegations against him. But what happened is it really kind of triggered what a lot of people have been referring to as this watershed moment, with a lot of a spotlight on Hollywood or really big media in television and film. And so since then, other people have been named and accused, and there are lots of other big stories that have come as a result of that. Just to kind of name a few, allegations have been made against James Franco, Louis C.K., Kevin Spacey, Tavis Smiley, Matt Lauer, Garrison Keillor, Charlie Rose, Russell Simmons, Al Franken, and Roy Moore, right? So we see this movement that started with Hollywood and has shifted to the political arena as well. We haven't seen it shift to a lot of big corporations. I think it's probably only a matter of time. What I think...
Just to...
You going to say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just to clarify, there actually have been comments made about people at major corporations. I forget his name, and I apologize to you on that, but the former CEO of Uber. It's one of the reasons
why that's right. That's right.
Yeah, one of the reasons why he's no longer there. There was also a guy who runs a hedge fund. I think it was DFJ, I believe the hedge fund was. But there have been some people in corporate America, quite a few people in corporate America as well. I apologize. I was looking for a list, and I just want to be very real with you, very real with the listeners. I was looking for a list of all the names of people accused, and I did this morning. Because I wanted to actually have a list of names that we could read off of people who were accused and their accusers. And there were so many people that I had to stop. I was so affected by it that I said, I just can't do it. Like, it's so, people don't realize how rampant this is and how blatant it is and how everyday activity this is for so many workplaces and businesses and environments and industries that I just got overwhelmed with it. And I said, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, imagine the women in these places and how they feel.
So I think those are two good points to take away from that. One is I looked at some of the same lists and I thought, okay, I could list everybody's name. I don't really know if I want to give them that much of a platform was one part of it. And so I tried to cherry pick some names that I thought had gotten more prominent attention and that our listeners would be able to more easily identify with. And the second point is, for each of these men that have been named, there are survivors of whatever offensive or illegal in some instances, maybe at the very least victimization that they've perpetrated on women. And so far, what I know of these major cases, the survivors have been women, girls and women in some instances. I think Kevin Spacey is the only instance in which there's been a male accusee. But we have to remember that we know of, right? That we know of. And so I want to be really respectful of the fact that we're talking about lived experiences that people have gone through and are working every day to survive. But I also think there is power in being able to name these people. And I think that is what has changed the conversation around sexual harassment, sexual assault at this time is because we're talking about people that have prominence. We're talking about people who, in some instances, were household names. We're talking about people who we know their faces. And that is a game changer. And I think I think the opportunity for us to leverage this moment, and when I say us, I mean kind of societally, collectively, leverage this moment so that the impact does go out beyond the scope of celebrity, but to people who are living everyday lives and who are experiencing the same sorts of offense, harassment, victimization in their workplace, or even not in workplaces, but in other social settings. I think